So if we think about that, that's macro. What about thinking about breaking it into a process? Step 1 to step 8, let's say. And we're going to then go through these and open them up and look at each of the steps. So the permaculture design process, not to say that this is etched in stone. This is just, say, my interpretation. First, I would observe. I would do observation. Inside of observation is many types of observations. One would obviously be site analysis. But we could see the client survey. I could talk to my client. I can perform the survey on myself. I could ask myself questions about what I want. That could be our goals articulation or lifestyle summaries. After that, that helps me to form a vision for the particular site. So I have a site that I hope matches my observations and my goals. That forms a vision. What could this place be? For instance, when we found this property, I looked at about 50 different properties with my wife together, and we had ideals about what we wanted. We actually wanted a reasonably large piece of land, so we weren't willing to pay a lot per acre, right? We understood that we could regenerate it through permaculture, so we weren't as concerned about it not having any trees. We knew we could plant trees. We knew we could fix the soils. We knew we could dig ponds. So our issue was about accessibility. Were we close to a road? Yeah, could we get services? Were we near enough the village to have interaction and security? But were we far enough away from the village because we didn't like noise? These are things that where we have to find that our lifestyle choices meet our site, and we looked for different sites, and we settled on this site. It was also within the driving distance of her parents' house where they're in the village. So it's within a circular kilometer of the original home. After that vision, we have to assess or do analysis of what it would take to meet that vision. What do we need? So for us, we needed to have electric. We needed to have access to water to start with. Afterwards, we could put in ponds. We can put in water harvesting. We can put in our own well. But at the beginning, it's very difficult to live in a place or an environment like this if you don't have access to water. Okay? We can't do anything. Then we investigate those things, and that helps us to make sure that our site meets our vision. Next, we can go through our conceptual design. What is the concept for the place? Are we able to do that? So we're more solidifying. Yes, we think that we'll be able to, over time, develop an educational center. Now we describe it as an institute. But at the beginning, a center to me was less formal, a little bit not as taking on that much responsibility. And now that we've been involved for, this is our 6th year, we recently changed to institute. In the instance that I think we can be more formalized about our educational process, and at which time we can apply with the Thai Ministry of Education in order to actually have, say, certified certificates versus, say, paper that we do. So workshops versus actual school. So different usage of language. After that, we start master planning. What is it really going to take? How big of a classroom? How many bungalows? How large is the sala need to be? How many chairs do you have to buy to eat dinner, right? How large should the kitchen be? What type of stove am I going to need to have? What type of plates? Are we going to use stainless steel? Or are we going to use cast iron? Will we accept aluminum? Some people don't like that, health issues. So you have issues like that. What type of center are we going to be? Vegan, vegetarian? Are we going to be able to cook for multiple people? All right, so that type of thing, we have to make all of those type of decisions, right? Are we going to allow any aspects of rules? Can you drink? Can you smoke cigarettes? These type of things. What bedding is going to go on the beds, right? Yeah. How big's the fan going to be? You going to buy the big one or the small one, right? These are all decisions that have to be made, and our plan helps us to capture those decisions, not just run around buying stuff like crazy without any kind of concept to what you need. So after that, we have to have phases. We obviously don't have the cash flow to do it all in one time. And the buildings, you know, if we're going to build them naturally with people, locals, and volunteers, it's going to take time. So what can we get open at the beginning, and what will be in the midway, and where would be like in 6 years now? Pretty much almost all of the buildings on our master plan are almost in completion. So by the 6th year, we've almost completed our design, and have we met our goals? So that's why it's important that we can evaluate, right? So implementation, we start the project. We invite the permaculture pioneers, as we describe them, to help us. These were graduates of PDCs. Everyone had to have 2 years of experience and provide a resume. willing to come to a fresh site and build something from scratch, okay? So very intentional community. And at that point, we had to develop Raktamachat, figure out what we were going to do, what is our personal style, what are our rules, how are we going to operate. And then most of them, 75% I'm happy to say, have gone on to their own families and farms, and now are operating farms and families. So that's a pretty interesting thing to see that type of person goes on further after they helped to do their own. And then evaluate. Each year, we have to do evaluation, and I'm really happy Christian has come back twice to do evaluation. So he's come back, we walk around the farm, we take the master plan, and we go over and review how are we doing. What changed? Why? Capture that information. That's your lessons learned. So also, it's nice to say that we could share that. So we now have a new sub-site of Raktamachat being developed to be able to put our master plan on and our evaluations on so people could read that information and learn. So that's something I think open source concept. It's not secret, right? We made mistakes. We fixed some we still are trying to fix, but we can evaluate that. And that's what our plan to go forward is, to work on those things. So the process, observation, reading the landscape, walk the site ridges, walk the boundaries of the property and get a feel for exactly where you're at. You need to walk and physically see the aspects. Note what's there. So if you're going to have a notebook, take your first observations, use a camera also. I could take a picture in each direction from a certain point. If you really wanted to be a consultant, get one of the new cameras with GPS, guys. Every time I walk to the corner, I take a picture, I can come back and lay out the topography because I have the coordinates from my camera that Wi-Fi's right to my laptop. Okay? It's a free app. Observe first what's there, then interpret what to do with it. Don't, at the beginning, try to clear your mind about what you could be doing and get excited. Just note what is on the site. Okay? What does it look like? What trees are there? What's going on? And then go back and figure out what you can do with it. Next, that brings vision. I've taken my observations. I come to sit down. It could be in my home, in my office, wherever it may be. And I have dream time. I need to try to imagine the whole system when it's finished. What does Raktamachat look like in the fifth year, right? Kind of basically what you're seeing. But what does it look like in the 10th year? There's not like, the canopy is going to close, guys. It'll be much different than you see today. It literally is a jungle. We planted 16,000 trees. Okay, it's going to close. It'll be much different. What is it in 20 years? What is it in 50? What is it in 100 years? Okay? The number of species of plants that I put here, we're almost in the botanical garden classification. So those species developing over time, we continue to propagate them out, right? This is going to be a very interesting little biosphere of life because we've brought in most of the plant species that we would find in native jungles. This is what we want to dream. What is it really going to be about? What is it now? What is it going to be in the future? So you need to think about longer periods of time than just say 1-3 years. State your intention. Write down what you really want to do. What is your intention with your design? What am I trying to achieve? What is the purpose of your design? What is your intention and what would be the purpose? And what's the function? What is it supposed to do? So if I say this is a permaculture institute, it should provide what I would imagine to be quality education. What does that mean? How do I provide quality permaculture education? So state your intention, then you can break down into how to do that. That's the way we go from the macro and we design back down to smaller details. Predict what it'll look like. 5, 10, 50 years out, what does this look like? When there's mature 50-year-old teak trees. What does it look like when you have mature jackfruit trees, mature durian? A lot of the fruits that we planted take 20, 30 years to fruit. Okay? That's a long period of time. There's trees here that I'll never see in my lifetime, the fruits of that tree. But the next generation will. And if our generation will not plant those things, they won't be there in the next generations because nobody's planting them. These are the type of things we want to think about. After we do analysis, assessment, or investigation, we need to prioritize things, and it normally start with your challenges. Write down what the hardest thing to do is. It may be money, it may be time, right? It may be skills. Write those things down, and then we can look at how we can find investment. How can we create time through organization? How we can skill up by learning, yeah? We can go to certain places that will teach us skills. Most of the skills we can learn are free today. And wishes that the design could address, like I wish I had more relationships, or I wish I had healthier food, or I wish I had a more spirituality, or these are things that the design could address, and it will help you to know what elements you need to put into the design to address those things. So if I want to have more holistic lifestyle, I may need to have a place to do yoga or meditation, right? I may want to be able to swim, right? Because that's something I want for my health, to be able to swim. These are things that we can address a problem, and problems help us to address solutions. In permaculture, we like to say the problem is the solution. So if you can state the problem, you can create a solution. If you ignore or will not talk about problems, or every time someone brings up a problem, you get upset about it, you can't fix it. So we say what's wrong, and then we create a solution to fix it. So consider environmental or ecological things that you may want to, like I like collecting the plants that I think are endangered. My wife is very into what we would describe as older Thai food sources that the younger generations are no longer eating. They're considering those as no longer edible. So they functionally eat from the little bag, and if you go into the markets, the food selection is getting smaller and smaller. It's not getting larger and larger, okay? So the older food sources that the older generation ate are not being cultivated. So hopefully we can keep those into a heritage situation, so that in Thailand, when the generations switch, they're just behind maybe the West in this concept. In another 50 years, people will want those things, and we will be able to have them. They won't be lost. Consider personal or aesthetic issues. You may like certain views. You may like certain plants. You may like certain aspects. Those things you need to list what you like, your personal aesthetics, so that you can make sure that you add those in your design. It may be colors. It may be materials. It may be a particular type of building style that you would like. Issues and well as trouble spots, something that might be a problem on this particular land. So I went and looked at this land, and they have some erosionary issues here. That's a trouble issue. But I know if I come in and do my earthworks and swales, then I could fix that really easy. So this property is underpriced because they have this issue with it. But I already know I'm going to put in swales and ponds and dams, so that's really nothing for me. So I'm going to get a really good price on this property, because Raktamachat was like that. Running right there, there's a ditch and there was a big gully with erosion coming through the middle of this property. Well, I went and put 3 swales, breaking it into a pond. Okay, still have a little bit of erosion right at the pond edge that I, on a yearly basis, battle with. But basically, that was from a farming sense that other people didn't like it. So the property was undervalued. But from a permaculture perspective, I slowed the water down in the landscape, and now I don't have that erosionary event. This is the concept. So one person sees a problem, wow, I see an opportunity. Yeah. So after that, list what specific things will need to happen. I need to do this. Maybe I need to, after my PDC, I need to go home and I need to work in my job for X amount of time so that I can look for another job that gives me a little bit more free time. So I have this job which allows me to work this way, but I have to work 40 hours a week. But then I have no time to work on my farm. So if I got a job that I could work like 25 hours a week, maybe I was a substitute teacher, right? So I could teach as a substitute teaching. I have summers off and only have to teach 20 hours a week. Then I could spend the rest of the time at my farm. And if I reduce my consumption, I don't need that much money. I'm going to be growing my own food, right? I'm building my own house. And then that's something I could look into. Okay, so after that, list your design systems and elements. So first you need your lifestyle. Hopefully by this time, you've developed your lifestyle goals. What do you want to do? Now, what would you like to have at your farm for you to do? So if you're like Jason, if Jason likes to exercise, one of his goals would definitely be having a place for him to exercise. If a person likes to do yoga, they would definitely want to have a yoga sala. or meditation at the same place. Or maybe we can do all three in the same building, right? And at least at the beginning, we could share. And then as I develop, because I do natural building, I could make individual separate places if I so chose, right? I may need to, I may not need to, but I have the option because I can do natural building. And this is where you give yourself options, and you understand that in the future, I can make changes, I can develop. So list those systems, list those elements. I want to have bees. I like bees. I want to have my own honey, right? We used to have bees at Raktamachat. Tim, he took care of the bees. That's his a real passion. He loves his bees, right? He comes back here in January, and we have 10 bee boxes. That'll get repopulated, and we'll have bees with honey again. That'll be great. But he takes care of his bees. He spends an hour every day with his bees. That's his deal, right? So if you want those things, then you put them in there. But also, every element you put in, you need to think about how long you have to deal with the element. Some elements don't require much time. If I build a fire pit, well, I don't have to really do anything with it. If I want to make a fire, obviously I make the fire. And maybe I have to clean ash every so often. But it doesn't really require me to do it every day. But another element like chickens may require me to service the chickens every day for 30 minutes. Well, that means that's 30 minutes you can't do something else. And you only have so many minutes in a day. So how many elements can you place that take X amount of time? And remember, give yourself free time. How many hours a day do you want to work? Start it there. So for each of those elements that you want, list its products that it will achieve. So if I have this, it will make this. What are the activities that are involved? So if I want to make a fire, because I like fire nights, then I need to stack firewood. And then I need to be able to move the firewood to the pit. So where's the firewood stacked in relationship to where I'm going to, say, burn it, right? This could be a concept. What are the needs, or what are the intrinsic qualities of each of these elements? So if it's a chicken needs to have water and food, right? It also has other qualities like needing to take a bath. So how do I provide dust for my chicken so it can have, or grit? It can't process its food without grit. It needs grit. So these are things that I learn about that element. This particular plant needs X amount of sunlight, needs X amount of nutrition and water. Without those things, it won't thrive. Connect as many of your elements as possible, so needs of one element is met by another element. So my kitchen waste coming from my kitchen can meet the needs of, say, if I fed them to my worms. My worms could meet the needs of feeding my chickens, excess worms, and their product in the nursery can meet the needs of my potting mix. My potting mix goes into my nursery, meets the needs of my seed saving to make seedlings to go to my garden. The garden goes back to the kitchen waste goes back to the worms. These are input to output, and we can look at cycles. Next, we can look at identifying any assets that you have, limitations of the land and or the climate. What are you good at? What's your passions? What's your skill set? What's your family's passions and skill sets? What's your friends' passions and skill sets? Who can you call on to help you with different things? Maybe I have an uncle, right? And he knows how to do electric. So if I need help with setting up my solar, my uncle can help me because he's good with electric, right? And then I have another friend that he really likes hydroponics. So man, he could help me get my hydroponics set up, right? Then these are the type of things we look for those things. And what skills do you have? Maybe you're good at computers and you work in an office, but can you convert that mindset to learning to do a website? Because I may need a website to market my product. Maybe I have a friend who works in marketing. She could help me with designing a logo or graphics or something like that. After that, we start to do research, and we can capture research into maps. So that's graphical representations of what we capture. We could visit our neighbors. So if I have a farm, who is doing a similar thing that I'm doing nearby? For me, I visited pretty much all of the King's farms in Thailand within this region, within a region of Bangkok here. And at those farms, the King supporting Thai permaculture, or what's called Porpian, or in Thai, or the new theory of sufficiency. His farms are really amazing, and he has these things where, like the biochar that we made today, that apparatus is one that's used at King's Farm, so I can copy his permaculture, right? And then I can teach it to you, right? So this is the thing. Go to the other farms, go visit other permaculture farms, right? Research on the internet, look at what people are doing, and then capture that into your research. So your plan is where you're capturing your research. It could be as simple as having a Word document that every time you have a cool YouTube video, you copy the link and stick it into the Word document under that particular research topic. Maybe you use bookmarks. So now I start bookmarking things under my, biochar. So I search biochar, and when I like this video, and I bookmark it correctly, these type of systems. Think about what's upstream of your farm, and what does that mean? Well, if there's a factory 2 kilometers that way, and the wind blows this way, and then his smokestack comes on to me, that might not be a great place to live. So I need, before I purchase a farm, to make sure I know what's nearby. Which way does the wind blow? What if it's a river system? And okay, so yeah, wow, look at this. I got this stream, and I can use that water for my garden. But like, I don't know, 10 kilometers up the stream, there's some garment factory that puts dyes or whatever in the water. Well, that would be something I don't want that to happen. So I need to make sure that anything upstream of me doesn't have contaminants that would come onto me now, but also think about in the future. That's why it's good sometimes to have like regulations and zoning people. May pay extra to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. You're always going to reassess and modify. Research is kind of never ending, especially once you start doing things. I can go online, oh, I'm working on this, I'm now doing my permaponics, I need to learn this, oh wow, this isn't working, let me go research that more. And then I can modify my plan, modify my design.